Guys, let's dive in. The most intriguing part of this matchup, what have you been stewing over, thinking about? What stands out the most, Coach, in this national championship game?
Football, whether it's high school, college, or pro, is a quarterback-driven sport. And it's not ironic that we have the two best quarterbacks in the game. The first-round draft pick of this year, probable, Joe Burrow, and then also Trevor Lawrence probably next year. So I think that's the intriguing matchup. However, the defense coordinator for Clemson, I've coached against him twice. I've watched him. I think he's the best in the business. You give him 16 days, and I think he's going to make this interesting. Because at the end of the day, I think LSU is a little more talented. I didn't say a lot more. A little more talented, especially when I got to watch Clemson firsthand. They have incredible skill. I think the front seven goes to LSU. However, I think the D coordinator, Brent Venables, and Trevor Lawrence, if he puts a Superman on his chest and runs all over the place, I think this will play a close game. I think it will, but I think LSU at the end. But once again, I just think Brent Venables it could be the difference maker.
You had to play him in the playoff a few years ago against Clemson. You also played him when he was at Oklahoma, when you were at Florida, were those two meetings. How about you? What are you looking at in this ball game?
Well, you mentioned Trevor Lawrence and just being Superman, but also running the football. And we saw a couple highlights. He had that big run last week against Ohio State. And I just think because of their struggles at times to throw the football against Ohio State and that talented secondary, LSU's got a really talented secondary as well, and I think that's going to open up some lanes for Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. They got to get him going in this run game. But Trevor Lawrence, guys, had 16 carries in that game. Some designed, some when plays broke down.
Yep.
But, Coach, you were talking about how surprised you were with just the athleticism and the speed. LSU, the best defense, right, against LSU is to run the football, move the chains, keep their offense, and limit those possessions.
Joe Burrow on the sideline.
Exactly. So that's why I think Trevor Lawrence, yes, he's going to have to make plays down the field with those talented receivers, but he's going to have to carry this team on his back. He's going to have to tuck the football run. They have to get Travis Etienne more involved in the run game. Ohio State did a great job of shutting him down. And then even throwing some of those, the route out of the backfield, the big one on the closing drive, that's huge. And just really quick, too, Coach, to your point on Brent Venables, you talk about that game. The first half, I think you mentioned it, just the yards they gave up, almost 180 yards rushing to Ohio State. The second half, they only gave up 26 yards rushing.
Yep.
These big games are always about adjustments, whether it's pregame or halftime. He does a great job of that. We'll see.
He definitely made those adjustments. But I got to say, guys, I felt like Clemson was exposed a little bit by Ohio State. Yes, they won. Yes, they made great adjustments, but think about it. They did it with turnovers. They did it with great red zone defense. They did it on, let's face it, the behalf of some officiating, and they took advantage of those opportunities. I think if they play Ohio State 10 times, Ohio State probably wins 7 or 8 of those. Now, is LSU going to make those same mistakes? Doesn't look like it.
Right.
LSU doesn't turn the ball over very much, and their defense is playing much better. Think about the fact that LSU's defense, they're giving up under 300 yards per game since that Ole Miss game in which they gave up 600 yards of offense. They're healthier on defense. If they expose Clemson to the same degree that Ohio State was able to, this could be a long night for the Clemson Tigers because it was looking that way early in the game against Ohio State. It would just be one of the factors that you see because, Coach, as you know, once somebody figures you out, and that's on tape, where your leading rusher has to be your quarterback, your leading receiver has to be your running back. They pieced it together. Now LSU has a blueprint of how to slow down Clemson, get a lead early, and that might be an exposure issue for the Tigers.
Let's just talk about body of work for a second. I did not realize how down the ACC is until you really watch the videotape. The ACC, when Miami's hot, Florida State's hot, Virginia Tech and Louisville, those are top 15, top 20 programs. They're not right now. And so you watch the body of work. They were rarely hit in the face. They were hit in the face, and like you said, you got to give credit to the Clemson offensive coordinator and the coaches on offense. Traditional run game got minimal yards against Ohio State. Etienne had very few yards from the traditional run. As a matter of fact, I know Ohio State wasn't that worried about the offensive line in the front seven. They did a great job. Jump pass, screen pass, Q draw, Q counters. That's how they got their yards. And so I just think that you give 16 days preparing for this thing. I think also LSU has seen that the body of work that Clemson had to play is not close to what they're getting ready to face against Ohio State and in this championship.
And the body of work for LSU, just think about their last 2 games, both against the number 4 team in the country, Georgia in the SEC championship game, and then Oklahoma in the playoff. They won those 2 games by an average of 31 points, one by 27, one by 35. So they are rolling right now.
For the best access, perspective, and personalities in all of sports, follow us at Fox Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.